y'all would go for if y'all had to.
Yeah, that would probably be mine as well.
You too?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of people are really into Sprigatito. Like they're loving the. I love it too, but like I don't know, something about Fuecoco just like he. I don't know. It's it's the way he looks. He looks so dumb, but he's so adorable. Like you can
Yeah.
pick him up and he'll just go and he'll bite your face off. I don't know.
I
It's
think I
adorable.
think Quaxly is really cool too, just because like
Yeah.
he's so out of left field, and he looks like he's the one. He looks like the what's it called, the hall at
Oh
school or
Right.
yeah.
something.
Right. No, I love how these starters are like it's simple. You got a crocodile, you got a cat, and you got a duck. You know, nothing weird. Like some starters just they were odd, like Snivy. I was like, what are you? Are
Oh
you a
yeah,
snake?
yeah.
You know, Superior is cool, but I don't know. I'm excited for this one. I wonder if there's regional variants, if there's new Pokemon. I wonder what the legendaries are. I like the name Scarlet and Violet. I'm leaning towards Scarlet, but I like the Violet theme. Like the way the header looks. I don't know. It's stylistically, I'm pretty excited, and I wonder if they're going the traditional, like gym battle route or not. Because there's an area, there's like a Times Square, and it has like a circle where there's like different types. I wonder if there's like a tower kind of thing or like a what do you call it? Oh my god, like a battle tower kind of situation. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm
Yeah.
excited, man.
We'll see.
Call me left field. Left field.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it.
Pretty crazy that it's coming out this year. Pretty
Yeah,
nuts.
late
But
2022. That's kind of crazy.
yeah, that's pretty wild, man. They're firing.
Yeah.
They're firing on all cylinders. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But okay, man. Let's jump into probably the main topic for this podcast, and that's probably gonna take the rest of this podcast. Um, guys, I want you to to talk to me about Elden Ring. This has been the game that has been like pretty much taking. I feel like the gaming community by storm. I think that's I think that's pretty easy to say.
Yeah.
This game is selling like absolutely incredibly well. The moment that I knew that this game was like, oh yeah, Elden Ring is a big deal, is
Hmm.
I follow an NBA player, and he aside from like Spider Man, he really only plays like 2K and Madden and Call of Duty every year. He sent out a tweet the other day that was like downloading Elden Ring right now, and I'm like, okay, like games that can actually like break through, that sort of like the people who only buy the Maddens and the Call of Duties and things like that. That's when you know that they're like actually like a really big deal. So yeah, that's how I knew that this game was gonna be big. Oh, how's your experience been? I guess we put into Elden Ring so far.
I
I
can
don't.
I can start since least amount. I
Yeah.
think. Well, I think I know. Well, it's been going crazy on this game since it came out. Um, yeah, I put 10 hours into my first playthrough. I actually just restarted this morning. Now that I have a better picture of how I want to spec my character. And it's all because I saw the Twin Blade on Twitter and remember that it was in this game. I was like, wait, I definitely want Jedi Sith build for Elden Ring. So that's what I did this morning. I made my character look like Darth Maul. He's called Darth Macho, and he looks great. The character creator is trash, though. I will say that. It doesn't really lend a lot of creativity and options, but I still made it work to it looked pretty decent. And for what I played so far, yeah, it's Dark Souls 4 open world. A lot more exploration. It's a different feeling from Horizon Forbidden West, where that obviously is an open world and it's giant, expansive, but it's very narrative focused. Obviously,
Hmm.
Elden Ring is so much jump into this world and just explore everything. It's all pretty much your own personal experience, and that's what has me really excited to keep going back to it because I keep finding different stories that I can tell from my own playthrough, and that's always really fun to like relay with like Walt or like different people of like I just fought like what was I before we started my playthrough I actually beat the first story boss, and when I was playing through it I didn't realize that there was like a summoning stone right next to, like, to the entrance of this boss. And then my fiance Sammy was like, "Hey, did you know?" Because she's watching like other people play it, and she's like, "Hey, did you know that this summoning stone was like right there?" I'm like, "I did not even see that." And so I actually picked it up, and then we're watching like me fight the boss, and then we just kind of had that shared story there, where we're just like experiencing the game with each other in a sense. And you get that doses of like little stories throughout the entire world where like you find something you didn't see was there before, and then you go and explore, and then now you have like your own personal, like that kind of stuff I really love about Elden Ring. Technical aspects, yeah, this game's a little rough, man. There's a lot of popping. There's been more than enough frame dips than I can count. It wasn't kind of disappointing, especially since like all the games that like I was telling Walt this before. We're like we're really entering not entering. We've been in this phase, and we're still in this phase for some reason where games are releasing and they have the release and fix it later mentality. It happened with Elden Ring. It happened with Dying Light 2, with Horizon Forbidden West. And the only thing that really helps these games is that they are complete games.
Yeah.
But that really still doesn't drive home the fact of like these should have been baked in the oven a little more, especially with Elden Ring, where the game is not Horizon Forbidden West. It's not even Ratchet. It's not Ratchet and Clank. It's not even Witcher 3 graphics, in my opinion. It's Dark Souls 3 graphics in just an open world. So I don't really see why there's a reason. I don't see why. I don't see why rhyme or reason why this shouldn't run at least well if it's not going to look like amazing. You know, it looks better than Pokemon Arceus. Yeah, that's for damn sure. But
I'm not trying to like excuse anything, but I do wonder because you're absolutely right that like recently it does feel like games have been like releasing in these sort of like states a lot more recently. I do wonder if the pandemic has anything to do with it. If it's just like if just it makes QA in general a lot harder to do than it would be when people are together in an office. So yeah, I do wonder if that has anything to do with it because yeah, you're absolutely right that this has been happening. I feel like more frequently now than ever.
yeah, yeah, and I think you bring up a solid point where there's 100% a chance that it has affected the QA. I'm sure it made like a super difficult, right? Vendors, developers, Crystal Dynamics even said like moving remote absolutely hindered our development for our vendors in the content rollout. I'm sure it's the same thing with Halo Infinite, right? People were complaining about Halo Infinite's content rollout, but keep in mind that they're all working from home, and a lot of their development team is a lot different from like how PlayStation and other studios do it. They do more like contract stuff and freelancers and actual like in games
Yeah.
like studio stuff like that. But besides the point, like it's just to me like if I feel like with a game like this kind of hype, I felt like they really owe it to fans to just deliver something that was a little more stable. And it's not like horrible, right? It's still playable, but like there are definitely like moments like that more than count on my hand where like the frame rate just dipped and I'm like, oh my god, like I just had like a whiplash, you know,
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
was just the performance ones were just like dipping so hard. But
But
yeah, I mean,
aside from that, you're having a great time.
yeah, more or less, yeah, yeah. I feel like the bosses are the enemy designs are really great and the bosses are fun. Um, but yeah, I'm liking my experience in Elden Ring. I'm not completely blown away, but I think what's there right now from what I'm experiencing, I want to keep playing. So that's enough for me.
Well, what about you, man?
I have 50 hours in,
Damn, already.
and I'm nowhere near the half point of the main story. Um, so this game, its flaws lie with the pacing because it lets the pacing be controlled by you, the player, and that can sometimes create a dissonance when you are level 50 and you're fighting a boss that was meant to be fought in level 20. So that's from the get-go. That's one of the biggest things about this game that I think is not a failure, but it is a flaw within the design because it very much will vary person to person. You will either, never encounter an enemy, encounter him like 100 levels in and one shot him and not experience the same, what the maybe developer intended to. But I think that this game makes up for it with its just incredible set piece bosses. Essentially, this game, you have the open world. There's about, I read somewhere it was like 83 bosses in total. The There's a lot of replicas of bosses or variants. So, for instance, you'll have a boss that's a watchdog, like a statue of a watchdog that is like it's like a golem kind of thing, and you'll have that boss times five, but one does magic, one does heavy damage, the other one summons a spirit. So you'll have variants of the same boss, maybe five of them, which keeps it a bit interesting because essentially you go into different types of dungeons that are basically the same layout, but differently carved. So maybe the hallway is not towards the right, now it's towards the left. But that doesn't change much of the design. It's pretty much the same. What captivates this game, captivated my attention so much, is the fact that the classic, oh, if you see it you can go to it, if you can see it you can explore that
Yeah, the Skyrim thing, yeah.
yeah, the Skyrim kind of thing. And it very much is true with this game. This game rewards you and punishes you for exploring, because you might hit an area that you're not supposed to hit until you're like level 70 and you're like level 20. You might encounter, I'm level, let me see, I'm level 59, and there's areas that I shouldn't touch. I shouldn't even delve in there because the enemies just take forever to kill and they can one hit kill you. It's a game that very much you can tailor your own experience. You can tailor your own pacing. You can explore the entire map almost, and you don't have to fight the first boss yet. You can very much do that. It's the kind of game where you can go towards the end goal and not explore anything else. If you're skilled enough, if you can take down the main bosses, which essentially they're demigods, you can very much do that and not do any of the side content. The thing with that is that this game has so much of it, and it very much incentivizes you exploring so that you can become, better equipped to take on these bigger challenges. And I think that this game offers so much. I agree in terms of, graphically it's not as demanding, but I'd say I haven't played too much of Horizon. I might eat my words later on. But in terms of level design, FromSoft has this intricacy with its level design that is unmatched. There are layers to this open world that you cannot find like probably elsewhere. The way that they interconnect dungeons, an underground city, a volcano that has a manor ingrained into it, an academy that has a swamp surrounding it, and the way that it connects from the just pristine royal, wriggly like design academy to the just swampy, more malnourished area where it's all decay and rot, and the way that it all just synergizes and weaves and interconnects it with each other is so tastefully done. The phrase, the name lands between. This very much is a place that makes no sense in terms of what is placed where, but it does it in a way that makes sense in a fantasy aspect. You'll see a tower in the distance, and when you get close to it, it disappears. You find a riddle that says you have to kill three special enemies to make this tower appear, and then the seal will break off. And that's the thing that incentivized exploring. It rewards you. Oh, now you have this new talisman. So it made sense for you to go there and die 5 times to get there, but it rewarded you. I feel like this game, by not giving you a quest log, a tracker, you have the map, you can put markers on it. What Jason Schreier said, it very much holds up. If you have a journal, it probably will enhance the experience. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
That man got cooked for that.
No, and I don't know. There's other things that
I don't know why that actually makes a lot of sense, but
the deal with this game is that if you meet an NPC with Dark Souls and just with the Souls series in general, you never have a quest line. You never know where this character is going to show up. You go by dialogue, you go by design of the character. Where does it make sense that this character is going to be at? And when you have a world this massive, it's hard to keep track of that because you can meet someone. Listen to this. I met someone in the hub area, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave to look for this person." Okay, and if you refresh, you rest at the grace and go back, that person's not there anymore. That's at the bottom of the map where you can fast travel to this place. That person, you don't encounter them until you're at the very peak of the map. How can you keep track of that, without like actually being invested into that quest line or writing it down? You won't remember that where that NPC is later on. So I feel like what this game, why Macho said he thinks it's overhyped. I think that people didn't do it justice in terms of praising it too much. That can happen. I praise it, but I praise it to the point where I can defend my points. But I don't think that this is a game that you should qualify as flawless. No game is. And I think that the idea of a masterpiece doesn't accept a game from having flaws. I feel like the term masterpiece is, like all reviews, subjective. But what I do think, the controversy, where this game, like Macho mentioned, there are things that are, quote unquote unacceptable, where, stuttering or texture pop-ups or dipping frames. That wasn't necessarily, denied. It was admitted. People didn't talk about it as much. And I think people should talk about it. But no, they only praised it. The classic FromSoft fanboys, quote unquote. And I think that in and of itself shouldn't be the case. If you love something, like, go at it. Like, talk about the good and talk about the bad. Like, don't make, this is a product. This is a $60 product. People are going to buy it. People are trusting you to give them the best information so that they can, spend their hard-earned cash in a product that will, quite frankly, either be a complete disappointment or something that they'll play for hours and hours, probably years on end. To be fair, this game is just absolutely breathtaking. The music is out of this world. It's some of the best orchestral music that FromSoft has ever developed.
Yeah, it's really good.
I cannot compare it to other games because every other game has a different theme. Bloodborne, it's very, cosmic horror. It's very macabre. It's very gothic, Victorian, London kind of vibe. So you have a lot of symphonic, a lot of strings, a lot of organs. And with Sekiro, it's more, inspired by Asian culture. It's more of the feudal or Sengoku era. And, you have more flutes, you have more strings, you have more choir. But here, it's like a concoction of everything. Every single enemy encounter, main enemy encounter, is a sight to behold. I cannot wait until Macho gets to the first boss. There are, I believe, I said 6 or 7 main bosses to the game for you to complete it, I think. And there's like 3 or 4 endings. I don't know. Like every FromSoft game. But the way that every boss develops, you'll notice that with every main boss, their second phase has a cutscene. That's something that's like noticeable. That's something that's like I didn't think would be like a defining thing of a boss battle, where you actually anticipate seeing the cutscene, seeing what this person is going to do next, seeing what their next form is going to be, and there's lore behind it. It incentivizes and it rewards you figuring out what's happening in the world, and then when you get to fight these enemies, you have context. Oh, wow, I read about this here. Oh, I saw this NPC here. So that's why this enemy does this. That's why this boss talks like this. Oh, so that's why they're holding this. It's a game that's all about you. Like, if you find it, and if you, move forward with it and cultivate that seed that you found in the world, you will get rewarded later on with bosses, music, with more lore, with gameplay. I think that the crouching and the little stealth that they implemented, it's good to an extent. It's not Sekiro level stealth. You can't one hit, you can't backstab enemies and kill them silently. It's just a stealth for you to get like through places. If you don't want to fight enemies, if you want to get a surprise attack to initiate the fight or do some damage on an enemy, yeah, it serves as a means to an end, I guess. But don't expect this game having something I consider a magnum opus in stealth. Hitman. Don't expect Hitman level stealth. Um, in terms of customization, the amount of spells and weapons and shields and incantations and sorceries and stabs, it is insane. It's like double what FromSoft usually has in their games. And how this game, I think, works with difficulty, not accessibility, very different things. I think accessibility, this game sucks at it. This game just is, it does not have the means for someone that needs the accessibility function to be there. Very much to the point where Steve Saylor has gone into and talked about, I think this game does lack that. But in terms of difficulty, this game gives you options. It gives you bosses to grind, areas to grind. You have item crafting, so you can craft as many poison knives as you want.
And you can actually, like, if a boss proves like too tough for you, you can actually just run away and
Yeah,
try something else.
yeah, essentially. You have spirit summons. That's a huge help. There's options to make the experience more tolerable and easier. I think this is FromSoft's more beginner friendly game, if I'm being honest, because it gives you options to level up. It doesn't roadblock you with one big enemy and you can't progress the story unless you do that. There's lore still in the world even though you don't do the main story. I think it's fantastic in a lot of fronts. Yeah, I do. The stuttering, the text, I still get texture pop-ups. It's annoying. There was a point where the whole ground was clay, and then poof, grass popped up. It was jarring, but I was like, man, this game, like, I'm having such a blast. Like, that, I won't omit that. I'll talk about it, but I won't pretend like it's ruining the experience. This is not a game that like Horizon where you get immersed in the narrative. Mind you, if the flaws in this game will not impact it the same way that those same flaws will impact Horizon. If a character here pops up, he popped up. You can say that's open world jank. If a character pops up during a cutscene in Horizon, that will take you out of the dialogue. That'll take you out of the experience.
True.
When I get to the first area, I forgot the name, where the Oseram are, and you're talking with your friend there, I forget her name. There's NPCs popping up in the background. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to be invested in the story, and all these people are just, instant transmissioning over here, But case in point, that doesn't take away from the overall experience because the game does so much and is so ambitious that you can kind of see why it would lack in certain departments. And I have to be honest, to your point, so the pandemic influenced so much of what development is and has been in the last 2 years. Mind you, you'll have people argue, oh, but you have, fully fledged games coming out, a lot of indie games coming. Well, yeah, everyone works differently. Everyone's under different pressures. Everyone has different priorities. And quite frankly, it's about how you deal with it, FromSoft wasn't, I don't particularly think they were scummy in the way that they're marketed and like pitch Elden Ring. I think the problems that they have and they're facing are natural of an open world game, and I haven't experienced an open world game that doesn't have these types of issues. Even more condensed games like Last of Us. Last of Us has had a lot of like graphical issues at some points, but it was like in small segments. Overall, man, this game is. I haven't felt this excitement to get back to playing a game like now. Like when I'm at work, I'm like thinking about, oh man, I want to play more Elden Ring. Like that's been a while since that's been the case,
Macho,
and I think that
have you like to Walt's point? Have you been finding the exploration equally as engaging?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, I haven't really gotten like too much into it. I think like the best example of kind of like the fun to have in this game is by the stream that we did on what was it, Thursday?
Thursday.
Well, the stream that we did on Thursday, where it was mostly just kind of like a chill and let's just walk around and explore kind of thing. I wasn't going for any major bosses, and then once I came across stuff, like it was crazy, right? Like.
Yeah.
I was just going to a lake and we were just kind of like looking around, and I was just trying to level up my character, and all of a sudden the dragon just comes in out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, and then we just start like laughing and having so much fun with that and seeing how that's going to work and what we're going to do. And then the dragon was actually bugged where like it stayed on the rock And so I went across to like try to meet up on his turf, and it had disappeared, and it appeared back in the lake with full ball of health. And I was just like, come on, dude! Like that's like one of those bugs like that's funny, but it's like still like that's like one of like the crazy stories where like you're exploring and then you're just having fun, just kind of seeing what works, what doesn't. And it's a little weird for me because I of course I played Bloodborne, I played a little bit of Demon Souls, Sekiro, so I'm really used to kind of like this really linear sort of adventure when it comes to these games, and the fact that the gambit is like much wider open. It's a little it's like a kind of a little bit of a shock to me that I'm trying to get used to, but at the same time having a lot of fun, and they really kind of nailed like the what was on before, like the rewarding for exploration, while also the punishing aspect of it too, that Souls games are really known for.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
question I wanted to ask uh, you guys. Is that like with this game being open world now, like vastly larger than any Souls games in the past, are you guys finding it overwhelming with just like the breadth of like options and things that are actually in this game?
Well, that's the funny part, because you talked about before how you jumped to Horizon Forbidden West and you saw the map, all the icons, you're like, oh my god. And so you need to turn all that stuff off. That's why I wasn't really too worried about jumping from Horizon to Elden Ring, to giant open world games, because they both offer very different open world experiences.
Yeah.
Where I jumped into
You
Elden Ring, I saw the map, I'm like, okay, where should I go? It was all driven by me to do that.
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
and the map opens up only because you choose to open it up.
Yeah, not to say that that isn't in Horizon Forbidden West either, but when I
Right.
open the map, I have an objective of what I want to do. Okay, I want to do a rival outpost. I want to do this side mission. I want to do this cauldron next, and all this fun is engaging because I can still explore and everything. But in Elden Ring, I don't know where I'm going. Am I going to run
Right.
into a catacomb? Am I going to run into a boss fight? Am
yeah.
I going to
That's
find
fun.
this weapon? That's
Yeah.
that the unpredictability of Elden Ring is what makes it so addicting.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
does sound really fun. Just literally being like, okay, well, let's go to like the northeast corner of the map. I don't know what I'm gonna find, but let's just try it. Yeah, that's got to be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
I opened a chest in the stream. I opened a chest thinking I was gonna get like an item or something. It brought me to a whole new area,
Yeah,
and I was like,
Oof.
"What the hell?" And then what was like, "Oh, you found that place." I'm like, "What do I do?" And then like, so I'm just running, and I run into a boss. So like, I run into a boss. I'm like, "Who's this General What's it what's?" And then Walt's like, "Oh, I'm like level 50 something. I can't even beat him." I'm like, "What?" So so I just turn the other way and just haul ass, man.
Commander
damn.
Neil. Yeah. Screw that
Um,
guy.
this this one's a personal question. Because
Okay.
it's
Boss.
kind of like one of my like gripes that I have with Souls in general. But have you guys been running into like a lot of the classic like catacombs that's always in these games? And if so, like, do they just kind of feel samey, or the things that are inside of them, are they at least interesting when you go exploring them?
So, to the point earlier where I mentioned that there's a lot of different dungeons that feel like it's the same assets but lay out differently. There are the catacombs, yes. Classic with skeletons or gargoyles,
Oh
and
man.
the classic.
There are a lot.
There's a
I
lot
mean,
of them.
from the first, one could say for the first area, yeah. Like I
Yeah,
ran into at least three, and they're very similar,
Okay.
but
but
they're easy
different
to
enemies.
go through. And here's the thing:
Yeah.
every every area or every like activity, dungeon or 1v1 fight with a certain enemy, they all have their thematic item that you can get. So with those catacombs are talismans. So they give you buffs or debuffs or whatever. Uh, they're easy to go through. Essentially, you can just grind out catacombs and get different talismans. So the point of those catacombs, for me, it's not so much the catacomb itself. It's the materials that are in the catacomb. To get materials to upgrade certain abilities, and you get talismans to pair up with different builds. So they're easy to go through. They're kind of samey, but quite frankly, there's enough variety in the type of dungeon, because there's the catacombs, but then you have dungeons that are more poison or rot or decay or fire or more like spectral themed, and that makes up for the more samey parts. Because there are like there's the classic like there's churches that are like in ruins around the map. They're basically the same church, like in terms of asset wise, but they all have a cellar or they have a basement that you can go to, and that basement will also have uh, the same layout. You go down the stairs. There's one room where you fight a bunch of enemies, and then there's the treasure. Or there's a room with the little mini boss. You beat that mini boss, and then you get the little treasure. They're quick, bite-sized. I'd say they're like the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. You get through
Okay.
them. They're pretty samey, but it gets the job done. You know what you're getting yourself into. There's a material in there you're gonna farm. When you rest and go back, the materials respawn, so you can just grind out catacombs if you want,
Gotcha.
as many materials if you want. I don't think it
Yeah.
takes away, but it's noticeable. You'll notice, okay, yeah, that's the same catacomb I went like in the last 5 times.
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of been my experience with that too, where I ran into at least three of them, and all of them had different bosses in them. They were quite easy, but like it's
Yeah.
like Walt said, like you won't really mind because you can really take out that catacomb in like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and then you move on to the next thing. It kind of reminded me of, sorry to say this, but Breath of the Wild's
Oh man.
No, do it.
puzzles
This
because
is the
like you
most
can
we
go.
compare it to. Yeah.
Yeah, but because you well, more in the sense that like you can go into like all these different palaces that have like or ruins I guess that have different puzzles in them, but all of them are quick enough to be like there's a lot of them, but all of them have enough rewarding experiences that you won't mind that there's so much of it. It doesn't feel tedious if that makes sense.
No,
Okay.
for sure. I hate that the Breath of the Wild comparison became a me, because this is the game that I unironically I would compare to Breath of the Wild in many things, in many ways that exploration is done in dungeons and whatnot. But that horse is long decaying. We're not getting into it, but yeah,
I wanted to ask, have you guys run into the classic from Poison area yet?
yes,
Yeah. How is it compared to
yes.
like the rest of the series?
It's not as okay.
Annoying.
So you have a horse, right?
Uh,
You can get on the horse and just go through, and you won't get poisoned. Your horse will get poisoned, but you can avoid a lot of it. So it's a lot more, beginner friendly. It's a lot less punishing. Here's the thing: there's not only one area. There's multiple poison areas, and some of them are in dungeons, little dungeons that are poison themed. But there's this one area that is only poison. That area will kick your ass. And that area is like a late, not late game, but it's not an early game area. It's very up north. You have to really like go through areas to get there. And I think it's one of the more punishing areas, I guess. I'd say that poison really isn't the thematic like, oh, swamp, like annoying area. I'd say that where Macho got teleported to, the ailment there is rot, blood rot, and I'd say that is this game's swamp,
okay.
because everything is just out to kill you, and everything
Yeah.
is hard to get through.
And even when I was like level 16 and I didn't find anything, but like I just took my horse and literally just ran through that entire thing and to get to safety. Basically.
I'm level I'm level 59, and I get one shot in that area still. Like
Wow.
Jesus.
but that goes to show this game you can grind out. There's areas that you can get thousands of runes at a time, and you can grind out and become level 100 if you want. But if you got trash gear, you're gonna get mopped.
The runes
You
are
about
the
to get
souls
mobbed.
in this game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
runes are the souls in this game.
Okay.
Which you got different ways of farming that. You got little like the oh my god, the pop-ups right now. Everything just rendered. Literally like a whole area just rendered. There's different ways of farming. There's items that increase the amount of runes you get. Classic just farming equipment. You can craft a lot of those items. There's a variety. This game has variety, and I think that this game having so much is why it lacks in a lot of departments, like in performance issues for a lot of people. I hear like PC is like the worst performing one for
Yeah.
a lot of people.
It's
guess
still
points
it's
for
still
us.
pretty nuts to me. Just like because I'm seeing people saying that they have like 89 hours into the game and they're still finding like entirely new areas that
Yeah,
they haven't discovered yet, and new
yeah,
enemies and things of that nature.
essentially,
Uh,
essentially.
I wanted to also ask, so you guys have put some time into this. What has been sort of the like? I know Macho mentioned the dragon coming in out of nowhere, and that's sort of like a personal like story moment that you can like like hold up or whatever. But
Hmm.
what has been sort of like the craziest WTF, like what the fuck moment that you guys have had just like just exploring, walking around or whatever.
Okay, I have two. One is more story based, but I won't spoil it. I just go around it, and then one's more open world area. The one with the story. There's a boss, a main boss, that the second phase is. I won't say which boss it is. He jumps, music stops, dead quiet. If you look up in the sky, he's hurtling himself like a meteor towards you, and then the music
I
gets
saw that.
even more intense. Dude, that boss fight. Oh my god, that's been the peak of my gaming. That boss fight is amazing. Um, and open world. I'm kind of scared of this. So there's this area, and I was farming. I was discovering the area, whatever. And the boss shows up, and it's the most disturbing looking boss. It had like a bird skull for a face. It had like a slithery dark body. It was like straight out of Bloodborne. I fought that boss. He killed me. And when I returned to that area, that boss never appeared again. And I'm
Whoa.
worried for my life every time because I feel like that boss is going to be around a corner in some area.
That's
There's
cool.
there's bosses in this game that when you get them to a certain point, they disappear. That worries me because I feel they're going to appear.
Yeah, then I've also seen that like some bosses they will only appear during like a certain time of day as well.
Yes, and there's only enemies that appear in nighttime,
Yeah,
and
that's
plus
cool.
enemies get harder in nighttime.
I love that kind of stuff.
And plus there's a there's a weather effect during nighttime that will happen very not often at all. It's very like not frequent. It essentially it's like feather like gold leaves from the tree that will increase the amount of rooms you can farm, and that will last during the night. Which is a nice little weather effect that it does. Also, I've seen videos of people testing this out. When it rains, you do less fire damage but more lightning damage,
That's cool.
which is a really interesting. It's like 10% difference, but it does the biggest difference when you're fighting like big
That is
enemies.
perfect for my Darth Maul build. Thank you for letting me know
No problem. and
that.
and lightning, if you hit the ground, if you're hitting like a heavy attack with a lightning infused weapon, and the ground is like water, it'll create like a ripple effect of lightning around you.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah,
Again, I,
there's
I
it's
love I love just little stuff like that, man. It's really
yeah,
cool.
it's really nice,
And it's
man.
like you don't have to go that hard. You know what I mean?
No.
But it's so
Yeah, it's
cool.
like Aloy running and then like hyperventilating. She's like, "Ugh," like she ran, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you stop, all of a sudden she's like grabbing her chest and she's like, "Oh my God, I
Yeah,
gotta
or
go."
when she's sweating, you can see that in the desert stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see the drippy.
Oh man.
Pause.
What?
But yeah,
What?
what about you, Macho?
um, man, so much has happened, kind of like in those 10 hours, man. A lot has happened just because I've been experimenting so much, and then like I beat the first boss, and then got to like the castle area, and I started getting my ass handed to me. So that's when I realized I need to go out and explore more. But yeah, I mean, it was absolutely just opening that chest and just dropping to a random location that was just like, what is going on? Like, where can like, how do I get back? Like, I was panicking legit. Like, it sounded calm on the stream, but I was legit panicking because I just had no idea if there was an end in sight to like me getting out of here
Yeah.
until I remember that I could fast travel. in
That
this
Key and
game.
Peele skit where he's sweating, he's just like,
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the coolest moments, just like just exploring from my playtime yesterday, was when I approached this area that was desolate and crumbled buildings, and there were skeletons around, and they're a little more decked out skeletons. They had a little more they had a little more swag on them. They had more swag on them. So I was just like, okay, I was gonna go around this area. Maybe there's some like really cool weapon or something. And then all of a sudden, the music just shifts, and then the red little bar pops up at the bottom, and it's a boss fight. And it's not something you're really expecting, but what I saw was like a purple skeleton, purple ethereal skeleton in a boat, just rowing herself in a lake, and she was the boss fight that summons up more skeletons to fight for her. Sort of kind of like the spider in Bloodborne, how all the spiders appear around that one. You had to defeat the bigger Rom. Yeah,
The
exactly.
Spider.
It was exactly like this one, and in this one, in this boss fight, where the skeleton, if there was a skeleton in the boat that was just rowing herself, she has like different water attacks. So I was like trying to figure out how to dodge and get around her, and also defeat the skeletons that were just inching towards me, man. Like it was one of those moments like I won't forget in a game, just because of how creepy and unsettling it was, just to kind of like really figure out what to do and how to get the most hits on there. But overall, it was a pretty easy boss if you're patient with it. But regardless, it was one of those moments where like that makes this game really magical, where like you're expecting one thing and you just get completely thrown off, and it's totally different.
Two big things in this game, because they're essential to the gameplay. One, jumping. I didn't think jumping would be a revolutionary mechanic in a video game.
Oh my god. You're
Dude.
I'm making fun of you, man, because I tweeted the exact same thing where I was like, I can't wait for people in podcasts to say that jumping's so revolutionary in a video game.
Yeah, no, and this is why. For the longest time in Souls, iframes, you roll.
Yeah.
You can actually dodge enemy attacks or boss attacks by jumping during certain motions. And you can actually, like, when you're getting two bosses, or not two bosses, like two big enemies fight each other, and they have certain move sets that you cannot avoid with rolling. You can jump and they'll hit each other. Like, there's so many ways that you can, like, play around it, which it's revolutionary only in FromSoft. Only in FromSoft. Only. It does not leave this fear.
I'm glad you said that, though, because I was going to ask you if you run into any problems with dodging in this game where for instance, Margit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're fighting Margit, and there's certain moments where like I'm dodging the first hit or first swing that he does really well. I'm getting that down pat, but then when he goes in for other stuff, it feels like his attacks are moving a little too fast for my character to recover from the first dodge roll to dodge it roll again. Mm-hmm. Do you think the answer to that is just jumping instead and seeing where like his attacks go?
I think there are moves that are better, more well equipped for you to dodge by jumping than you are by rolling.
Okay, then maybe that's my answer to that, because I was having trouble, and I was like, I know I'm dodging this on point, but it's just my character's too slow to do another dodge roll.
Also have in mind, poise is huge, and just the amount of. So generally I don't roll as much because I can take a few hits and do a charge attack when I'm getting hit by a boss. There are certain combos and certain moves that you're better off just running away from, because it will probably stun lock you and they'll go for just a finishing blow. I think Margit is a great way of introducing like people to like the Souls, like the bosses. He's like a great melee / like a bit of a long range attacker.
He's a lot of fun. He was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The moment I wanted to say though from actually, now that we're talking about Margit, is that I actually posted on Twitter too, of when I was charging a fireball attack and he was gonna do his jumping hammer attack that he just. Man, it's the scary as hell to see him just jump that high, and he's gonna fuck you up, right?
Yeah.
But I charged my fireball through it. It hit his his tail basically, and then he just got stunned. I was like, "What? You can do that in this game?" I got so hyped.
So that's a big thing with enemies always have poise, and then they always have like stamina. You just don't see that bar. And even with Dark Souls 3, there were enemies that they're mid like powerful attack, and if you hit them enough times or you hit them hard enough, they will stagger or they will stop casting or trying to charge the attack. In this game, it being so like very mobile, there's a lot of mobility to gameplay. It's a lot more impressive because enemies will be massive but move so nimbly, like Marcus. Like he's a massive dude, but he will jump, he will fly, and he will crash down. Same with the boss that I mentioned earlier. That dude is nimble. But you don't expect that because they're so huge. They're not like Titans and Attack on Titan where they're just slow as hell. But yeah, man, I recommend experimenting with the jump because it changes. It changes the way that you play a lot.
Okay.
Very much. Yeah. And quick tip: if you're in a boss fight and you can summon your horse, there's iframes in that while summoning the horse. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. Can't play around with that.
Another question I had was, I don't know if people were worried about it, or like a lot of people were worried about it, but I did see sort of like a concern before the game came out. The, I guess, ability to have a horse, ability to have, summons and essentially have like real-time help during, boss fights and whatnot, would make the game easier. Are you guys finding that these are like little I don't want to say like cheat codes, but that they're somehow lessening the challenges of some of these bosses, or are you still finding the game as challenging as ever as any other Souls game?
No, it's definitely still challenging.
Really?
Yeah, for me personally, because like maybe because I was under level, but when I got to that castle part, I was just kicking my ass after being Margit. As I was like, okay, yeah, this is still like a Dark Souls game.
Right. Mind you, that the castle and those main areas with main bosses are their legacy dungeons. Essentially, they're like equipped to be like the next thing, the next big thing for you to tackle. So it makes sense that the game like rewards you if you grind a little bit outside, do a little discovering, a little gathering of resources and items, and then go to that castle and tackle it. Take your time with it because it's such an intricately designed area. I'd say, like I mentioned earlier, that summons, it's like this game's. I'm not saying easy mode, but it is the way of making this game feel at times like, okay, it lowers the difficulty. Not because the summons might do damage. There are summons that are pretty powerful, but you need a lot of like FP, a lot of mana points to do that. But summons will die pretty quickly if the boss gangs up on them.
Okay.
And they very much serve as a distraction for you to put some hits in, roll back, wait for the summon to hit the boss, and then distract them and keep hitting them again. It's not a cheat. It seems intended. That why would you have summons if not to help you during big battles like that? I promise you that no summon will help you with the toughest battles in this game. I guarantee it. Those summons will die before you get 1/3 of the health bar down.
Well, one of the summons that I found, I think it was from being that boss I was talking about that was in the lake, where you summon skeletons that can reanimate, even after they get hit. And the only way they can die is if the boss like hits them again. I definitely use those during Margit because he's so aggressive, and I can't pull off any spells that I want to, because I'm like half mage, half warrior. Confessor is my class that I am. That right. I needed time to just like really kind of soak in, see what he's doing, kind of study what he's doing, and I let the skeletons take the hits for that. So that definitely helped. But I mean, for me, it's like it's adding to the experience more than like taking away the difficulty of the boss because he's still hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
These bosses are equipped to deal with summons. I'll tell you that. Like these bosses are they have enough moves to where sometimes you will go for the hit when they're distracted, but they have certain AoE attacks that they will ravage you.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like Margit actually has a combo if he stuns you out of when you're blocking a shield.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's pretty cool.
Yeah, when he actually stunned me out of the shield and he started doing, I was like, bro, stop it. Like, relax. You're not the player. Like, hold on real quick.
Are there still well, have you encountered any phantoms like the red glowing enemies? Are they still in this game?
Yes, a lot of them.
Really?
There
Okay.
are a lot of invading NPCs that will fuck you up. Like,
I ran
there's
into
a
one in my previous playthrough.
oh,
Okay.
dude, you will be in areas and you'll see, oh, I don't know, like this invaded you, and you're like, okay, I think I can take him, and you see this man just cast meter, and you're like, oh, can't do this. Now, mind you, this game, oh man, this game has so many things. It has a lot. There is an area where you essentially are like it's like PvP inspired. Like you have like certain items that allow you to invade other worlds, and you have like a quest line attached to it. So like the whole invasion situation, like there's lore to it. It's like there's more depth to it. There's a lot going on more there. There's a lot more invasions. Every area I'd say has like at least like two invasions, or every like major open world area has like two invading NPCs at the very least.
I do love that you can completely just ignore it if you want to, even if you're
Yeah.
playing in online mode too. Like I'm not playing online because I don't have PS Plus at the moment. So, but I love the fact that you can just completely turn it off. Because man, when me and Walt were playing Dark Souls 3 and some random dude just came in, it was really annoying.
Yeah, yeah. That's one thing in this game that I concur with Baron from the low one. I was talking with him yesterday about the game, and he very much does not like the fact that this game isn't it doesn't have the jumping in, jumping out with friends. You have
Uh,
to put the summon sign, wait for
oh yeah.
that to
But
appear.
that's always been Souls. It's always
Yeah,
been obtuse like that.
exactly. And it sucks that it's still like that. That's one of the more archaic things that this game has that it's still annoying.
Yeah.
Uh, and even though there's an open world, if you're in a section like an open world section, like there's a place called Limgrave and another called Caelid, and they're like you can go from one to the other. If you're doing co-op, you can't go to another area. You have to stick in that little patch of land. You can't transition from open world to open world like section with the co-op because there's a mist blocking. So it sucks like that. And you can go into dungeons either because there's another summoning pool that you have to activate there to then put your summon sign, then summon that person to that catacomb. So it's not seamless, which has always been the case. It's not as bad as Bloodborne. Bloodborne was just the most terrible way of doing co-op, but it gets the job done, I guess. But let me tell you, co-op. I tried co-op. Enemies become more aggressive. They become beefier. This does not get easier with co-op. It gets harder, like surprisingly so. Like enemies, usually I do like if an enemy took like 500 damage from one hit of mine, and co-op it takes like 200. Like it's ridiculous the amount of like beefiness that these people just encounter.
Yeah.
Um, but I enjoy it. Pretty fun.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
Well, sounds like a great time, man. Do you guys have
Yeah.
anything else you want to add before we kind of move on?
Yes. Platforming sucks in this game. The platforming is just awful. Why?
Wait, so
Why?
there's like little platforming like puzzles that you have to do or something?
There are little sections where you can either do the long way around, you can platform or your way up to like a hill, or like
Oh,
yeah, no, I haven't encountered like a legit puzzle that you have to platform like purely.
uh,
Thank God, but yet, I hope I don't encounter it because
okay.
this game doesn't have this ain't Mario. This ain't something with precision.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean,
Uh,
that's like, I feel like that's the game like very like kind of clearly being like, hey, like we're not we're not a platforming game. Like if you remember the shortcut to Flame Lurker and Demon Souls, like it's very clear like you're not supposed to be doing this,
yeah, no,
but you just kind
no,
of try to like in a janky way try to do it anyway. So I'm
yeah.
assuming it's kind of like the same quote unquote platforming in this game as well.
Exactly. The
Okay.
wonky, like, step
Yeah.
up the ledge, step up the ledge,
Yeah, yeah,
ledge,
yeah.
and shit, I missed.
Yeah, for
Ah!
sure.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
No. But it's good. It's good.
What about you, Macho?
Yeah, I mean nothing really much. I kind of just want to keep playing it because I'm not in that realm where like I'm completely wowed, like this is the best thing since sliced bread kind of territory. But the thing is, when I played Bloodborne, I didn't have that feeling initially either until I beat it, and I really started thinking about it more. I'm like, oh man, like there's a lot of great stuff that's in this game, man. Like
Yeah.
this is like what's becoming one of my favorite things to go back to, and I occasionally just go back to Bloodborne just to do like the first area just to feel something. So,
Just
Oh
feels
my god. Okay, off lot.
and so like I feel like it's gonna be the same thing with Elden Ring because there's so much in it and there's so much to go back to and see and explore that it can be like the de facto game to go back to, and it being a little bit more modern really helps too. Um, I just hope that I really wish it didn't fall into that same category with a lot of games this year so far, where it's just like it's the release now, fix it later mentality, where like Jay, I 100% guarantee that when you play this game or when you play Horizon, it's going to be in a much better state than what I was playing. And that's cool for you, absolutely. But like for me, someone that's like waiting and is playing it here and now, I wish I kind of had that same experience, you know? So,
yeah, for sure.
Right. I and that's the same with Horizon, you know. And
yeah.
we'll play it in a better state, with less pop-ups, less NPC pop-ups, and Aloy not mentioning every single fucking thing she does in the world.
Yeah, that is the one thing too. Yeah, where she's doing like a puzzle and then she's like figuring it out before you figure it out. Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Is that it? Is that a loot? Huh? I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, it is. Shut up! Shut up! I love you, Ashley, but shut up! No, and to be fair, man, we gotta get something straight here in the Dualshock sense. No game is better in a point where you can compare, to slice. There's not Persona 5, not Kingdom Hearts 2, not Witcher 3.
Oh
None of
man.
these games. No, 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 no. We gotta be objective. No game is flawless. No game is perfect. It is all in the eye of the beholder.
That's subjective though.
Uh,
Like
uh,
I have like sure I can acknowledge I guess objectively sure no game is perfect, but to me I think Bloodborne is a goddamn perfect game. I think The Witcher 3 is a goddamn perfect game, right? Like
yeah, I
and
agree.
Persona 5 and Resident Evil 2 remake. Like I have games to me that are quote unquote perfect to
Exactly.
me,
There you go.
but
There you go.
sure,
There you
yeah.
go. It's just that I don't like when on Twitter you see just people just clowning on others that like, oh my god, like you claim this is just a broken piece of shit, and it's like, okay, buddy, I'm not inside of you. I'm not you. You're not me. Like
Oh,
obvious. Like, do you know what perspective is? Like people just forget what like just cognitive like factors are, like
that's
cognition.
It's fine,
You
man.
know.
You can't give people on Twitter that much like leeway or whatever. Or,
Thing is those people exist in the real world and they work for companies and they're clowns.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's I kind of understand. But the thing is, like, when it comes to reviews, specifically when it comes to like Elden Ring stuff, a
Yes.
lot of people like to point 10 out of 10 as like perfect games, and I
It
don't really
ain't.
see that. I
It
see 10
ain't.
out of 10 as like games that are like pushing the medium forward.
Mm-hmm.
And if people see that with Elden Ring, then they see that with Elden Ring. There's something
There
I
you
can do
go.
about that, about what they say.
It's
I
just
can
a daily
disagree. I can
reminder
disagree
of,
with it, but I can disagree. But like the case in point, that's what they do. Like, there's a lot of
yeah.
reviewers that say like Horizon doesn't innovate, or it doesn't. It's more or less the same, or it's not really impressive. I'm like, I can completely disagree because it pushed
Mm-hmm.
The Last of Us from my favorite PS first party exclusive, and like despite like some of its problems too, like or its
Mm-hmm.
technical flaws, like to me, like this game is like the ideal open world game after Witcher 3 for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there you go. I just like to remind, anyone that games, any opinion on a game, any review on a game, everything's subjective. Everything. Even the Constitution of the US is subjective because it was written another time. Everything is subjective. Like
yeah,
objectivity, true objectivity, I seldom think it is unattainable. I sometimes think true objective perspectives are near impossible. You can only appeal to a opinion that will be fair, but not 100% objective. You can be objective, not 100%. To that point, let's play games. I love games. Games are fun.
I did want to ask Soul though, his opinion on the Elden Ring kind of reviews, um, controversy. Not the fact that they admit the technical aspects, but the fact that a lot of reviewers admitted to not even beating it, but giving it a score.
Th- This is such a like nuanced, like tricky sort of topic to get into because on one hand, like sure, like I would never review for instance like a narrative game. Like I it just doesn't feel good to review like Mass Effect 3 without seeing that game all the way through to its like logical conclusion. Like that to me that just doesn't feel right. But at the same time, if you play a game like I don't know, Skyrim or I don't know, just a big game of that vein for like say 80 hours, I feel like if you played a game for that long, like let's just say like doing not like you haven't finished the main campaign, but you've done like 80 hours of exploration of side quests. Like I feel like your opinion is pretty valid at that point. Like I don't know, I feel like that opinion is just as valid and worth listening to as someone who has spent 30 hours and just mainlined the main campaign alone, right? Like I don't know. Again, it's tricky because I feel like there's merit in both of those sort of like reviews. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with you. I'm glad that you're on that spectrum because I'm the exact same way. Where, like Jason Schreier, for instance, he reviewed Xenoblade Chronicles. I don't remember if he gave you a score. I don't think Kotaku does review scores, but or at that time. But he reviewed Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and left off at 30 hours, and he didn't really like it. And that game's like at least 70 to 80 hours to beat. But if he's not gonna like it in the first 30 hours, and I don't think the next 30 hours are really gonna change his mind. So that's why I agree with like his quote unquote review saying like, yeah, this is what happened, this is what I experienced the game, and I didn't vibe with this, so I'm gonna put it down, not gonna go back to it. But yeah, if something like Elden Ring, where like I think Miles Dompierre is his name from Windows Central, he reviewed Elden Ring, and played like 70 to 80 hours of it or something like that. He was saying, I feel like that's a valid review of a game because you more or less you put so much time into it.
yeah, for sure. And then
But
and then
yeah,
there's also like the you have to think about like the context of the time frame that these reviews have to be sent out and published. Which that within itself, in my opinion, needs to be redone. Like the fact that Bandai Namco only gave reviewers, I think, a little under a week to play this game is criminal, to be honest.
yeah,
So there's that discussion as well. But at the same time, these review sites, like, is it really important to have these reviews out on day one? Like, sure it is for their traffic, but at the same time, like, we should probably be rethinking about traffic in general if that is the most important thing versus people's health. Like, uh, I don't know. There's that discussion to be had as well as like SEO and all that stuff and having things out day one. Like things have to be out day one. Um,
yeah,
that's what.
yeah. They're sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Well, to that point, I think what they're doing is their hyper focus on relevancy is killing their authenticity,
Yeah,
and I think that's just a major problem because that can pave different dangerous ways and really unauthentic ways of the way the industry can just go forward into how like we receive this stuff. Like
that's why I
it's
really like Easy Allies. That I think their Elden Ring. Well, maybe not their Elden Ring, but like there's some other games that they review. Like I think their Sifu review came out like a couple days ago, and that's like or a couple days after the actual release of the game. Like they have no issue with reviewing games or dropping their review for games after the release date. Like the Gran Turismo 7 reviews in general have been kind of weird, but like they were upfront. They put out a video on the day the embargo lifted, and they said, "Hey, like this is just our impressions. Like the review is not done yet. So look out for our review, in the coming days. But this is just sort of like our impressions for like as of right now, which is totally fine in my opinion. I
Yeah.
don't want people killing themselves, putting 80 hours into a game to hit an embargo when you've only had like 4 days with the game or whatever. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's tricky.
that's definitely it's just a complete glaring issue in video game media.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. 100%. It's got to change, man. It's got to change.
Yeah, and I feel like what these sites do too is like they have personalities. Just let them shine, and then people will follow. Like I don't understand why these media conglomerates or just companies in general just think that you know just because of the SEO where it's going to get them far, sure, and to get them all that money, and that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. But again, it's all about too having that personality attached
See,
to whatever's doing it.
this is where I don't know if like I completely agree with that because with that whole sort of topic, it gets a little weird because like I feel like you go to places like Kind of Funny or Easy Allies or Skill Up or ACG because of the people, right? Uh,
Hmm.
I I've I'm not necessarily like I don't know who reviewed Horizon Forbidden West. I don't know who reviewed Gran Turismo 7. I don't know who reviewed I don't know, like Dying Light at IGN or GameSpot or things like that. Like I feel like for those major sites, I'm more interested specifically in like what's like actually being said in the review rather than the person who's like actually reviewing it, if that makes sense. But yeah,
Right.
I don't
But
know
you
that.
can't separate the person from the review. Because the thing with big companies is that no same person reviews the same like amount of the same line of games.
Yeah,
Person that reviewed Horizon Zero Dawn maybe is
it's
a
not going
different
to
person
review
with
Gran
Forbidden
Turismo.
West.
Yeah, it's not going to review Gran Turismo 7.
Exactly. So you have to study the person to know the taste, to know the bias that's in the review. But that's the kind of research that people don't want to go and do because, quite frankly, no one cares enough to do so.
I mean,
Critical,
they absolutely should, just because some of those reviews were
100%,
definitely skewed
a
based on who
hundred
reviewed it.
percent.
But
Yeah.
like,
That's why I appreciate more like video form reviews that are from one person, like Happy Console Gamer.
yeah,
I watch his
exactly.
first impressions and review, but that's one person that I watch constantly, and I know what they like. With IGN, I don't. Who cares enough to see who did the review? What have they done? What reviews have they done? You're gonna
Yeah,
skim through all the reviews that this person has done to get a sense of the taste, to then know what they mean by this. It's a lot of work.
that's
So
my that's kind of what I'm getting at is that like yeah, I care about you know the example that Walt just had. What was his name? Console Gamer, right?
happy console gamer, yeah.
Right. Yeah, like I care about those people more so than like person A at IGN who's reviewing
Yeah,
a
or
game.
games, but I don't know, like even kind of funny because kind of funny, although it is like a group, effort, and you have set personalities. There's a clear way of thinking in that company, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
and
that's fair. That's fair. Fair point.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels more natural when it's one person. Like, who's the guy y'all watch a lot? ACG, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Uh,
Yeah, I watch a lot.
yeah, him. Like that's one person.
Yep.
One person you will follow, and you can affiliate a lot of things to. Like, if I were to read, and this is legit. If I want to read a review, I want to know that I'm reading a review of someone like of a game that I know that person is passionate about. Happy console gamer, RPGs. Oh, he made a Tales of Arise review. I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna watch that. Oh, who made a FromSoft review? Oh, Vatividia. Let me see what he's talking about. Iron Pineapple. Let me see what he's talking about. Witcher. Oh, let me see if Jay did like first impressions of that. So, or like Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts. If you talked about it like a piece, like that piece you wrote on Log, that was like talking about the beauties of like Animal Crossing, like during pandemic, or like playing with your fiance, like all that. Like when I want to find out what people think about a certain topic, I look where the passion lies, and I follow that. But that's my way of looking at reviews. A lot of people don't have time for that. They just go to IGN, what they give is 7. Okay, I'm not buying that. You know? I don't know.
And it's not like that doesn't exist at like places like IGN and GameSpot. Like
For sure.
Tamor Hussein reviewed Elden Ring at GameSpot, and
And his passion, it suits.
he's a massive Souls fan, right? So there's obviously people like that at these sites, but like I don't know, I feel like it's just like a little bit different when there's places that you've been following for years, and the people at those places, like in Easy Allies. Like I've been following those guys, pseudo religiously since like 2016, ever since they branched off to make Easy Allies. And like I love those guys, and I love that they all have different opinions and things like that. And I don't know, I find their opinion on games more valuable than traditional media, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's just me.
100%.
um
It's very different.
yeah, but
It's less corporate. I don't know. It feels less corporate.
yeah, good question for sure, man. um but yeah,
Yeah, Macho. Well, those heavy hitters, man. What is this?
is
Well,
that the
it was a big topic, man. I wanted to get Soul's opinion on, because of the fact that you and me talked about it briefly, and
Yeah.
it's honestly, it feels like it's an issue that's getting worse and worse with these kind of games. So yeah, it's just something that I wanted to see what you guys thought about.
yeah. But yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for Elden Ring. I think my plan is I'm gonna let this game like breathe a little bit, and get some time removed from its release, once I guess like the hype starts to die down a little bit. And then once I finish games like Horizon and Cyberpunk, and then I'll get to it eventually. But I will for sure get to it. um it's probably going to take me a really long time to beat, because I take at least like a month to finish Souls games. Like, yeah, they take me a while. But yeah, let's move on and talk about some of our other smaller topics before we get out of here. Macho, I don't know if you've heard, but Sly Cooper and Infamous are in the news again. Rumors once again, circulating that games in both of those franchises are planned. So yeah, I don't know. Like obviously we're excited for this, but I don't know. Like honestly, like what form these can take, because like I feel like for Sly Cooper, I don't know if I want a Sly 5. Like I really don't know if I want that. Um, at the same time, I don't think I want a Sly 1 remake. Like in my universe, like a Sly 2 remake would be awesome. And then for Infamous, I would love like a full-fledged like new Infamous with a new protagonist. But I don't know where you fall exactly on this.
I want the whole gambit. I want remasters, and I want a new game. Especially for Infamous 1 and 2. I feel like those games can serve this new generation immensely, just as being classics. I love what they did with like the superhero genre for their time, especially Infamous 2, with like all of the kind of the innovations it did with like the branching storylines and the different powers associated with that, and a really cool area. Like I think that could just do really well. And then obviously a new superhero game would just be awesome for me, man. Especially since, so I guess PlayStation's like iconic superhero game is Spider-Man. That's gonna be prominent this generation for sure. I think it would be great if we got like another different kind of superhero game, that being Infamous. Same way as Prototype was back then too, after Infamous. So
Yeah.
I would love to get a new Infamous game on top of the remasters. On top, if we're talking Sly Cooper, I don't know, man. I obviously I want remasters of it, having it touched up, or even like a soft remake of sorts would be really cool for the trilogy, and like a remaster for the fourth game, I guess. And having like a new game, I would love the idea. I love to see what they can do, because if they have a really good idea, then I'm gonna be all about it. But I am very cautiously optimistic about it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, There's, I personally don't believe it now since the whole situation with Ukraine and Russia. But there are rumors of Sony possibly having something planned in March in terms of like an event. I don't know how likely that is now, but I would hope that we do get to see something in whenever this next event happens. I really hope it does. Um, so speaking of PlayStation and them and new games and things of that nature, we did find out through an interview recently that Housemarque is working on a new IP. Obviously, no details yet, but still, nonetheless, I think it's exciting. So we did hear, I forget what number it was. It was 10. It was 10 new live service games, right?
25?
No, no. It was 10 live service games, right? Specifically, that Jim Ryan
Oh
said.
yeah.
Yeah, by 2026. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't, because we're just hearing about this right now. I don't think. Do you guys think this is possibly one of them? I don't think it is.
Uh, I wouldn't. I think you're right. I don't think it's part of like the live service, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was, because what is the one thing that Housemarque absolutely excels at?
Yeah, it's
Gameplay
gameplay.
loops.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if they could find a way to bring the arcadey version to like a live service feature, not I don't think it would be like traditional live service games that we see before,
yeah,
but something more lines of if it's their workflow and what they can do. Because one of the things that a lot of people were kind of aching for after Returnal is DLC. So if they can pump that out into like seasonal content for like whatever they have in mind for whatever game they have in mind, that's something I can definitely see. I don't think it is, but if it isn't, I wouldn't be surprised. Or if it is, I would be surprised.
yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised. I'm giving some.
You good?
We're on a long podcast, fellas, and I'm starting to get hungry.
Uh, yeah, man. But yeah. I would hope that it's not. But yeah, I don't think it is. Um,
You wouldn't want something like a Returnal esque, but something a little more seasonal.
no, I'm good.
No, wow, I'm actually surprised. Actually, I thought
Yeah.
like someone like you that loved Returnal, you would be like aching to get back into that world again and
No,
do different
that's
biomes.
no, that's one of those games. I beat that game. I don't want to go back to it. It's like it's kind of similar how I feel about Souls games in general. Like I got what I wanted out of those games. I don't want to ever have to put myself through that again. So yeah, I'm good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm
Fair
good.
enough.
Um, yeah, so last topic before we get out of here. We didn't get to talk about this last week, but guys, Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter
Yeah.
6 got announced. We barely got anything to really sink our teeth into, but I really wanted to get your guys'
I know what you can
thoughts.
stick your teeth into.
That
That
Yeah,
thick
same.
Ryu, bro.
Same. That thick real. Yeah, that real guy.
that's
That
not
real he got a shower.
that's
That's a
not
prime one steak right there.
that's not where I was gonna take this
I don't know,
conversation.
man. I
Uh,
don't know. That snake in his pants was kind of crazy, yo.
oh man. Oh man, we got to end this podcast, man. Before
Yeah, legit. Like, real quick, Macho, you're the
Yeah.
fighting boy here. What do you think about what you felt about when you saw that?
y'all acting a little LGBTQ in this podcast today, man.
We did say we're all inclusive, as Walt said in our introduction video.
Very true. Very true.
I'm just saying, man. Ryu's a thick boy. We all knew this. He's definitely a shower.
We letting the gays in here today, man. everyone feeling a little bisexual today. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my god, what's that? A song from Avenue Q? Everyone's a little bit racist. Or today, everyone's a little bit bisexual today.
Yeah, I guess so.
But bisexual.
In any case, yeah. So I mean, as far as the Street Fighter 6, this game was. Everybody kind of called it that this game was going to be announced.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
As far as what it is, they finally made whatever the guy's name was, like the last DLC character for Street Fighter. He actually looks cool in this one. He doesn't look like a
Popeye?
throwaway. What's his name?
Popeye? He looks like Popeye with those arms.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't look like a Logan Paul reject, even though Logan Paul is a reject, anyways.
man.
He doesn't look like a Logan Paul, which is fine. He actually looks a little cooler. But yeah, his biceps are not even biceps. His forearms are ridiculously huge.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on
Man's
that,
Quagmire over here.
on that logo, man.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know.
What's
I'm
that,
talking
Macho?
about. I'm talking about the visual design of these characters.
No,
Well, no,
ignore
because
him.
I think
Ignore him.
Look
no,
away.
because I think what they're doing, like it looks like what they might be doing is having Street Fighter 6 in the RE engine because of the way like these
Yeah.
character models look, which is nuts. I think they're leaning more to like the realistic sort of art style. Or maybe even more like a realistic character model, but maybe like a eccentric art style. Maybe similar to something to Tekken, where like it has similar, like it has like very realistic, not even realistic.
Mortal
It just has
Kombat.
character. Happen?
Or Mortal Kombat, I guess, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Or Mortal.
Damn it.
Ignoring.
Sorry, I fell into a hole and I died. And I didn't
ignore
see the hole, so I got scared, and that was my scared sound.
I think it's going for more like realistic character, like models,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess, but like a
Oh
little
yeah,
more.
Ryu looks hella realistic.
You guys know what I mean. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I
No,
think
yeah.
it's going for more like character definitions and stuff like that than anything. But
Like
I think
totals.
when it comes to that logo, it's like it's such a weird issue, I guess. But it's like I totally get the criticism. Like this, like it looks like they. I mean, they take it off like a Photoshop like template or
They
something.
did. They did.
Yeah, it looks like
Looks like a Vulcan. Like you know when you're like a
Yeah.
kid and you like start drawing like your name in weird, just like that style of name. You're like, oh, I'm cool. Like, it looks like that.
Yeah, it's totally weird. I feel like that's definitely a placeholder, and if it's not, then that's kind
Like
of
they
like
commissioned
really
it on
weird.
Fiverr.
Yeah, like it's the thing is when it comes to fighting game fans, they're very fickle, and they take every detail into account, and it's because like every fighting games kind of set themselves up where like every detail does matter. So there's some validity to that,
It's
Every
just so
detail matters,
weird.
even the colors.
including yes, including colors.
It's just so weird looking at like the previous logos, like Street Fighter 4's logo and 2,
Yeah.
and then comparing it to this, man. Yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I feel like the visual design is these things definitely matters. That's why it's one of the reasons why people shouldn't cut out graphics either, especially when it comes to fighting games, because all that stuff really does matter. And as you can see, case in point, everybody loved the reveal, but the one thing people are gonna harboring on is the logo design, which looks like it's totally uninspired.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
if that's gonna bleed into Street Fighter 6, then, it's too early to tell. But yeah, as of right now, it looks like it's a placeholder.
Yeah, for
Hopefully.
sure. No, we hope. But yeah, that's gonna do. I'm really curious to see, platform wise, where this game ends up. If it is going to be multi-platform or just PlayStation exclusive again. We should find out relatively soon. But yeah, interesting nonetheless, man. Pretty crazy that I don't know if that's like a normal occurrence for Street Fighter, that it usually takes this long in between games, but man, it's been a really long time since we got 5.
Which
think
wasn't
that
even
the-
5 at launch. It's like
Yeah, there's the Street Fighter 5 was like just a weird conundrum in all itself. I think they just needed like what Capcom really needed was just a soft reboot of Street Fighter and just basically take the limelight, because if Street Fighter 6 fails, then Capcom's fighting division is really in trouble. So I think they just really need like something that's gonna wow people, and it's gonna bring Street Fighter back into the conversation and put it to a really good light after what Street Fighter 5 did. And it's on the upward trend, because what Street Fighter 5 did like in this last like 2 seasons of content was amazing, and like nothing that I've seen really that people really have complaints about the characters, more like the gameplay aspects.
Yeah.
And if they hone on that in Street Fighter 6 and just really get people excited again for Street Fighter, then they're gonna knock it out of the park. But I think it really all rides in Street Fighter 6, so we'll see.
Yeah. for sure. That is going to do it for us, guys, on our 50th episode of the Dualshock and Sons podcast. We're going to get started with these outros and get everyone out of here. Macho, why don't you kick things off for us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The King of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy fanatic, celebrating his 28th birthday. I'm looking forward to seeing the Batman this today, fellas. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but it's
No, not yet.
the reviews are looking good. The theme song is a banger.
Yep.
I'm really excited for it. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to doing that and playing more Elden Ring, getting the Platinum in Horizon. So it's a great time to be a gamer of all games, man. And Triangle Strategy, man, I'm really tempted when I go out, man, to go to GameStop and just pick it up.
Dude,
Because I need something to play at work, so that could be my game.
it's insane, just like the number of games that are coming out, and it's not even like we're only what 5 days into this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2022 has
5
just
days.
started, and good lord, man, what a year so far. In all aspects, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
But Walt, what about you, man? What's going on?
What is going on? What is going on? Let's see. I think that games suck. I don't like games. It's been a suck. No, listen, man.
The cat.
It's Caps. I'm probably, man, I'm the same boat as Macho. I might cop Triangle Strategy. I'm super hyped for that game, but I have to control myself because there's other games I need to play, like Horizon and Elden Ring. They're so huge. I want to dedicate myself like slowly to them. But I might pick it up. I don't know. I might pick it up tomorrow.
Do it today, coward. Do it today. Do it
Ah,
with me. Let's make bad decisions today. Let's do it. Come on, man. You only can make bad decisions once in your life. You can do it today.
once in my once in my life, yeah, I got that one voucher. I got a pass. I got a pass. Man, because typically with Switch, I guess digital game because it's easier to bring around and might get it digitally because there's no real. Oh man, but that physical looks good, so good. Other than that, man, more Elden Ring. Today, I got work after the podcast, so I'll be doing that. Next, what we're doing next week? What am I doing next week? More Elden Ring, more Horizon. I took one of my days I took off, so I'll probably be playing more, getting more uni stuff done. Just moving forward and surviving these troubling times. You know what I mean?
Man,
Yeah,
speaking of that, this is how you know I really love Cyberpunk. Is I took a goddamn day off of work just to play it.
Did
Hey,
you really?
yo.
Yeah, I did.
That PTO going to good use.
Yeah, no regrets, man. No regrets.
But yeah, man. As for me, wrapping up Cyberpunk. Like I said, I'm on the final mission, so really excited to see how this thing ends. And then possibly finally getting deeper into Horizon, but we'll see because for all intents and purposes, I could just go back to Cyberpunk and check out the Nomad beginning for a little bit, or I could just finish off some side quests in that game. Yeah, who's to really say? It could go either way. Also, one thing I didn't bring up, that game is surprisingly like Ubisoft, more Ubisoft than I was really expecting, which is kind of like, I ignored a lot of that stuff, but that's another one of my gripes. It has a lot of that Ubisoft kind of fluff in the open world.
For Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why I've just been
I agree.
I've been focusing purely on just like the main side quests that you can go and do instead of the more Ubisoft checklisty kind of things. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I'm gonna be up to. And yeah, we'll see what comes of this week. Hopefully although I don't expect any news to happen this week, but we'll see, of course. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us. Once again, I want to remind you guys to like the podcast if you enjoyed the discussions that were had today, and follow us. We have our Twitter handles down in the description below. Go ahead and give us a follow, all that good stuff, and we will catch you guys next week. Peace.